Welcome back to Executive Class. Our episode traces the journey coffee makes from bean to cup, a process that starts with coffee trees and ripe cherries, harvested, processed, and hulled in the farm. After the green beans are sorted and packed, the story of coffee enters a different chapter, in the hands of traders and the expertise of roasters. Most raw coffee is traded like oil, in an impersonal and speculative commodities market. But Malongo, a premium coffee roasting brand from France since 1934, is one of a growing number that buy directly from farmers. This to ensure provenance and quality. And by reducing the middleman and the so-called invisible hand of the commodities market, they also make sure the farmers are paid fairly.
I chose the farm of coffee, principally with fair trade system. The fair trade system is a system to give to the farmer a good price for his quality of coffee with a collective team with the farmer and also organic coffee, because we don't like pesticide, we don't like fertilizer, and I want all my coffee increased with organic. It's very important in Europe, in French market. Now, all people want the coffee organic.
By personally inspecting the farms, Malongo can pick the best beans and ensure the coffee was farmed sustainably. Not because it's trendy, but because, as any good roaster knows, there's no turning a bad batch of beans into good coffee, no matter how skillfully you roast them. Malongo sources Arabica beans exclusively, which they roast using a traditional slow roasting method in their facility in Nice, and sell these under their signature blends or single origin varieties. Their coffees are served in the finest hotels and restaurants, and the boutiques in Paris and Nice, and soon in Makati. Their range of coffee blends and varieties satisfy every palate and any time of day. It must be said that raw beans on their own do not determine the taste of coffee. Roasting plays a big role in bringing out the aromas and flavors in the drink. To show you how beans are roasted, I visited a good friend, Harris Lim of Henry & Sons, at his roastery in Mandaluyong City. Harris keeps a smaller 5-kilo roaster in his adjoining cafe for small batch roasting and for training. And I came just in time to see him roast Burundi single origin beans. In roasting, starches convert into sugars that later caramelize. Acids develop, while others are broken down. And the magic in coffee? The aromatic oils that produce the yummy flavors and aromas are created. Roasting is both skill and art. Every bean variety has an optimum roasting profile. There's simply no way of automating it. Over-roasting produces a burnt taste. Under-roasting creates a lifeless one. Although baristas get all the fame, it's the roasters in the back room that really deserve the glory. Roasted beans fall under 3 general categories: light or blonde roast, medium roast, and dark roast. It's more than just about color. A cupping session of the same Colombian variety, roasted 3 ways, helps tell the difference.
So this would be like a blonde
This is
coffee, right?
Yes,
blonde
it's a
roast.
blonde roast.
Okay.
It's a little bit after the first crack of the coffee, and it's got some bitter notes, but more of the, you can taste the floral notes, the acidity. You can taste lemons in the coffee.
Next is a medium roast. This one balanced. It's subtly sweet and fruity notes. The sweet spot of coffee, so to speak, which is why medium roasts are the most popular with regular coffee drinkers.
Okay, now let's try the dark roast.
Dark roast.
Okay, now this should have the most bitter taste.
That's right.
Wow, intense, powerful, more pronounced bitterness, but still within the range of good quality and good taste.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of preference, right?
It really depends on what you like.
Once the beans are roasted, they make their way as either whole beans or grinds to supermarkets and coffee shops.
As we just showed you, the journey from bean to cup involves a series of delicate steps, which start with the right environment and the right tools and techniques for growing and picking the cherries, and of course, for roasting the beans. But it's only half the story, because the other half involves another series of very critical steps, this time involving matching the right kind of grind with the tools and techniques with the kind of coffee you desire.
We turn to Yardstick in Makati, a third wave coffee house, to see the last critical mile coffee makes to your cup. Sir, Yardstick's top barista, shows us how to brew the perfect cup. Yes, even with a humble coffee pot. It starts with the correct grind size. For drip coffee, a medium to coarse grind is fine. Ground coffee is weighed and the water measured to make sure the ratio matches perfectly. Then the brewing begins. No guesswork here. Brewing time should be between 7 to 10 minutes, depending on the bean variety. A relatively new way of brewing that's popular with coffee geeks is a pour-over using a Hario V60 dripper. Fans swear they can taste the slightest notes in the coffee this way. That's why it's ideal for single origin beans that are roasted lightly. Sir recommends brewing 15 grams of medium ground coffee with 250 grams of boiling water at 93 degrees, poured over the paper filter in a constant, concentric manner, so every grain of coffee is brewed evenly. As you can see, making the perfect cup is time-consuming, so new ways of automating the process have been invented. Purists insist coffee is an art, not a science. That's why even with the latest technology built into coffee machines, the human touch of a skilled barista is still needed. Espresso makers have come a long way since the first fully manual piston-operated machines developed in Italy. Modern ones are designed to look traditional, but most are fully automated within, but still with enough room left for baristas to perfect the brew. First, the grind size must be optimized for espresso. Then the grounds polished and tamped properly so water passes evenly.
For every coffee variety, there's an optimum brewing temperature, an optimum brewing time, even an optimum coarseness or size of grind. It's complicated, and that's why most people prefer to head to their favorite coffee shops instead. So if you insist on brewing coffee at home and getting the perfect cup, well, it's possible.
The growth in coffee drinking has been accompanied by a boom in home brewing machines. Nespresso leads the way in the luxury market with a system that produces barista-quality coffee at home in a few easy steps. Their patented capsules and designer machines have revolutionized the industry, and are now available at the first Nespresso boutique in the Philippines.
There's an interesting story about how the first Nespresso capsule or pod was created. Now, according to the story, there was a Nestle engineer on vacation on holiday in Naples. He was with his wife and enjoying espresso. Now, the wife was enjoying herself so much, she challenged her husband and said, "Why don't you create that same experience at home?" Well, years and years of R&D later, the very first Nespresso pod was born.
So not everybody can actually go to Italy and experience a traditional Italian barista-made coffee. So it's a true story. And being the perfectionist and purist that he was, he then started working and never agreed to release the invention until it was exactly that experience that he had in Italy.
I sat down with Nespresso's regional head for Asia during the boutique's launch in Rockwell, Makati. Despite the fascinating technology packed into every compact machine, even the inventor knew only the quality of the coffee, not the hardware alone, could bring out the best in every Nespresso capsule.
So then he went on and said, to be able to replicate this, because it is the sum of everything, then he said, I will go and source the coffee the way I want them to be sourced, which should be directly from the coffee farms. That is a huge commitment, because buying coffee from the coffee farms is far more complex, far more expensive, and the quality control is far more difficult than if you buy from the commodity. But he went ahead and did that.
Nespresso has since developed an extensive range of blends using beans from the best farms in South America, Africa, and Asia. Their collection includes 4 single-origin varieties and a growing number of limited edition coffees.
It's similar in the fragrance industry what a nose does. You know, they can combine and create some new flavors. And then as Nespresso continued to expand around the world, we also discovered that people enjoyed coffee different ways. And we thought that because we have access to the coffee farms and we travel around the world with our agronomists, we could have limited editions where you can explore some parts of the world we didn't know existed.
The beans are roasted in Switzerland with all the flavors and aromas captured in their patented aluminum capsules that are sold exclusively in Nespresso boutiques around the world. A trip to one of these is like traveling to the plantations themselves, with complimentary tasting sessions that bring the farms of Ethiopia, Brazil, or India closer to you. It's amazing how simple and affordable it's become to enjoy coffee that's harvested in the most remote corners of the world. It now takes less than 30 seconds to do so with an automated machine. But imagine the amount of time needed to plant and care for a single coffee tree, to harvest the cherries and process them by hand in the farm. Think about the long distance these beans travel to reach roasters, all the different hands coffee goes through before it transforms into that exquisite hot beverage we love. It's a journey we ought to appreciate every time we pour a new cup of coffee.
And that's all for this episode of Executive Class. I'm David Celdran. Thanks for watching.